In today's corporate world, it's just high pressure. As a leader, you're constantly getting hit with competing priorities, these urgent demands. And let's be honest, the temptation to take a shortcut here and there. It can feel like you're just trying to keep your head above water, let alone make the best choices for your team. And that really is the fundamental question, isn't it? With so many voices all pulling you in different directions, you've got stakeholders, market pressures, even your own ambition. How do you possibly tell the signal from the noise? How do you find that path that actually builds something that lasts, instead of just chasing the next quarterly target? All right, so let's get into it. We're going to start by really defining what that corporate noise is. Then we'll look at this fantastic analogy for leadership that helps cut right through it. From there, we'll dig into two core principles, listening and sacrifice. And then we'll see how it all comes together to create a pretty incredible outcome for any team. So let's set the stage. The modern workplace is just noisy. It's packed with what our source material calls wolves of distraction. And you know what that is, right? It's the endless pings, the conflicting advice, and it's also full of these false voices promising a quick, easy win that, well, often leads your team down a path you really don't want to be on. So in this kind of environment, every leader is basically standing at a crossroads. On one side, you have the shepherd's gate. This is the path built on integrity, trust, and transparency. It's the harder road, for sure, but it builds real, lasting value. And then on the other side, you've got the thief's way. That's the path of shortcuts, self-interest, and at the end of the day, the destruction of trust and team morale. So to really get a handle on these two paths, our source gives us this powerful metaphor: the shepherd versus the thief. And look, this isn't just some old story. It's a timeless framework for two completely different leadership styles that we see playing out in the business world every single day. So what exactly is a shepherd leader in, a professional context? Well, it's a leader who doesn't sneak in the back door or just rely on their title. They earn their team's trust by walking right through the gate of transparency. Their leadership is all about a clear, consistent voice of integrity and a real, genuine commitment to seeing their team thrive. What's so amazing here is how this maps out a journey, not just a job title. It's a whole process. First, you earn trust by being transparent. Second, you lead with your authentic voice, with integrity. Third, you guide your team. You don't just drive them with fear. And finally, you actively protect them from those wolves, whether that's burnout, office politics, or just intense outside pressure. Okay, so that brings us to the very first core action of a shepherd leader. And it all starts with maybe the most underrated leadership skill out there: listening. This is the absolute foundation that trust and real team cohesion are built on. Just think about it for a second. When your communication is consistent and it's clear and it's driven by your values, it just cuts through all that corporate chaos. Your voice becomes the reliable signal your team tunes into. They learn to trust it, they learn to follow it, and this is just as important, they learn to recognize and reject the voices of strangers. The bad advice, the unethical shortcuts, all those distractions. And the return on investment for this, it is huge. Genuinely listening builds these unbreakable bonds. It creates psychological safety where people feel like they can actually speak up. It fosters this deep loyalty. And crucially, it empowers the whole team to be more discerning, to know which advice to follow and which to just ignore. All right, so that leads us right into the second core action. Because if listening is what creates the bond, then sacrifice is what proves the commitment. This is where a leader really truly shows that they're putting the team first. Now, the source material uses this incredibly powerful absolute statement. And of course, in the office, we're not talking about literal life and death, but the principle behind it, it's profound. It's all about a willingness to put the team's well-being ahead of your own. So let's make this super practical. What does this idea of laying down your life actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon when you're staring down a deadline or a really tough decision? It's not nearly as dramatic as it sounds, but believe me, it is just as meaningful. Here's the crucial point. Sacrifice shows up in the small, daily choices. It's choosing integrity when some questionable shortcut promises a quick win. It's advocating for your team's resources even when you know it's going to be an unpopular fight. It's sharing the burden when a teammate is struggling. It's swallowing your own ego for the good of the project. It's those selfless, everyday actions. So, when a leader consistently combines this deep listening with selfless action, man, something remarkable happens. And this isn't just about creating a nice place to work, it's about unlocking a team's absolute true potential. The source calls this outcome abundant life. In a corporate context, we can think of that as a state of high trust, deep unity, and just incredible resilience. It's really the difference between a team that's just surviving from one quarter to the next and one that is genuinely thriving. And here is the key takeaway. A team of brilliant but self-reliant individuals is never, ever going to be as strong as a unified team led by a shepherd leader. That collective strength, that ability to bounce back from anything, it's a direct result of this specific way of leading. At the end of the day, this whole leadership model isn't about managing a collection of individuals. It's about forging them into one cohesive, aligned, and unbreakable team that trusts its leader and trusts each other. And so we end right where we began, with a question for you. Right now, your team is listening. Is the voice they're hearing a voice of integrity and sacrifice? Is it a clear signal that cuts through all the noise, guiding them to a place where they can truly thrive? Or is it just another voice in the crowd? The choice and the impact, well, that's yours.